Hello again, it is Thursday and you know what that means. It is time for another design challenge where I take an idea and I show you exactly how I get to a finished item. Now this week I have been playing around with some dinosaur sketches and I think we are going to go with this guy. Let's get into it. So I already had some idea of the color story I wanted to go with. I knew that it was going to be something to do with like greens and purples and like this is actually, okay, on the camera this kind of looks rather blue, but they're actually quite green in person. They're it's like a turquoisey, soft seafoam type green. These are kind of the colours that I went through. Can you tell? There was a yarn sale, guys, don't judge me. So these are the colours I kind of, I wanted to work with. Okay, so there are my colours at the top. So some of the additional challenges I want to try and work with in doing this particular dinosaur, the Stegosaurus, inspired type thing, we're not trying for realism here, is there are so many different kind of interesting stitches out there, and so much of amigurumi is about just using single crochet. And I want to try and see if we can use some of those pattern stitches to add some additional texture or colour or just some sort of level of interest to our dinosaur. And the other thing that I want to do is construct it largely in one piece. So basically starting from the legs and then working up in horizontal rows like that, which I should leave for the diagram stage and not draw over my concept sketch. So yeah, there we go. So that's him from the side. Let's see if we can work out what he looks like from the front. So I have done a little test swatch of just some different scale textures I want to play with. So I've done some here with some half double crochet, and there's a couple here with just some double crochet over top stitching. So yeah, we're going to be playing with a few different things, and I don't know how it's going to turn out. So hopefully we end up with a decent finished thing at the end. Right, so I went in search of additional pencils because I just didn't have the colours I needed. So because I can't quite decide on which of the colours I want to go with, I want to do a couple of colour experiments, and you're going to see that here on my concept sketch. It's not something I've done before, or it's not something I've done here on the channel before. But basically, I'm just going to split this into a couple of different, three options. We don't want to give ourselves too many options. That way, madness lies. So I went in search of more pencils, just to find colours that match pretty closely. Does anybody else have just an endless supply of coloured pencils from basically every stage of their evolution? I swear, some of these I've had since maybe primary school. It might date back that far. It's really hard to ever throw away just a decent coloured pencil. Or even a non-decent coloured pencil. If it's got colour in it, it's a decent coloured pencil. Oh, there we go. There's my dark green. So that nearly completes the set. That's not a useful colour. Where is a mid-purple when I need one? Oh, I like that green too. The other green was closer. There we are. So we have our purples. We have our, we can call them blues, but they're these two. And we've got our greens, which are these two. So we're going to try a couple of different colour combos for this. All right, tune in next week when I actually pick up a crochet hook. No, I'm kidding. We'll get to that in just a minute. So sometimes it's worth taking a few extra minutes to just really sort of finalize exactly what it is you're trying to accomplish. And I guess I'll try one purple option for the scales as well, even though I'm pretty sure I want to stick with one of these for the scales. So I want the feet to each have 3 toenails. Just the first challenge. 3 toenails on, otherwise just a little stumpy tooth. A little stumpy cylinder. Me using my big words. So from the bottom, that should look like something like that. And I want size-wise this to be no more than, say, I think that's big enough, honestly. So no bigger than about 30 centimeters, 30 stitches. There is a difference. Oh boy, there is a difference. Okay, so we'll be doing 4 little feet like that. and I'll make each of those, I'd say about 8 rows tall as well. So that's already, what, 240 stitches of just the same thing, up and up and up. And that will give me a good chance to try out the scale samples. If I don't like it, I can swap to a different color scheme. Now, in terms of the rest of it, because I want to build up in those horizontal stripes, I want to do it as all kind of one piece. So the next bit that I would need is almost like this long belly plate kind of thing, which will make up the base of the overall thing. And then like you would add, that's where the legs would basically go. It's a pretty basic shape. Will be dictated by the legs for the most part, but if the legs are 30 stitches around and they're about that wide, then this is going to be like, what am I doing? Okay, this is potentially up to 120 stitches. So that still makes it a lot of rows, but it doesn't make it 120. I might feel that one out as I go and get based to make the 4 legs first and just feel it out from there. From there, we will have this flat to work from with these legs attached. And we will work up. Like so. Move that like a little further back. Not as big. Oh, my dimensions are all over the shop today. And then after that, we will need like spikes in certain sizes. They need to be double-sided, so I don't want to work them just up as flat pieces. So from the side, they'll have to even have like a little diamond kind of shape to them. Like so. I suppose technically that's the side and that's the front, but we'll just make that work as it happens. Now the head will be worked, so like I said, I'm going to work these rows upwards like this. So my starting point will be like here-ish. Just always start in like a nice sort of neutral point so you have time to like work up and work out what you're doing. In terms of the head, I would like to keep it kind of simple, and then we might add like, I'm in love with this idea of a grouchy Stegosaurus, so we're going to add some like evil looking eyelids and just make him just like super disappointed in us and the choices we've been making lately. All right, now I always go over it in pen just to kind of like lock my idea in. It's kind of almost like a mental process for me where going over it in pen just sort of cements pieces that I need to work on. Oh, that shape's going to need a lot more refinement before I actually get started with it. Look at that, it's just a long nothing with the legs going to the sides. In fact, we might even want to bring that piece out here like this so that it's all like one enclosed belly and the legs don't have just like sticking out at a weird angle. So just a little reminder about that face. So yeah, all of this is not at all something I've ever done before, and hopefully it turns into something that at least kind of resembles what it is we're aiming for, because otherwise, I don't know, otherwise I'm going to show you anyway, and it might completely discredit me. Yeah, all right, I think we're ready to go. Stuff flying everywhere. All right, now we can just get started. All right, so as I mentioned, we got to start with the feet, then we'll work with the body plate, then we will be doing this bit, then this bit. Okay, so we're back now. So I can't remember which one was the original, but we have one little foot here, and I went ahead and I made 3 more. So now we have all 4 feet made, ready to move on to the next stage. So that's this stage. We're ready to move on to the next stage now, which is this long panel that's going to basically form the body of the Stegosaurus. So we know that the feet are about 14 stitches across. So that gives us some scale to work with when it comes to our diagram here. So I wouldn't want it to be any fatter than that. See how we can just derive scale from the pieces we already have using that wool. So the same wool, same gauge, same hook. We're going to end up with the same size if we do the same number of stitches. Probably about half half a foot in there. So we know that we want this bit in here to only be about 7 rows, and that's about 14 stitches. Okay, so we've already got some dimensions coming into play here. And in terms of overall length, let's see if we space those feet out. Probably want the head to stop right about there. So again, we probably want this to not be much more than 14. And then to balance out the tail, if we go back to our concept sketch here, let's extend the tail out by 10 and we'll have it narrower. So let's get the tail down to like 2 stitches at the point, and the nose should be never smaller than 6. All right, so you see how we could use the feet to just very quickly map out exactly the rest of the dimensions for this piece here. Okay, so there's that flat piece done. You might have noticed that I had to frog the first bit a little bit because I started out a little too narrow. It turns out that 6 stitches wasn't wide enough, and so we ended up starting with 8. And I did try and build in at least a little bit of cheek shape just to get us started here. Now these little things that look like little flippers, they will be forming part of the belly. So they will help flesh out the little space between the legs so that we can have a little bit of a gap, because otherwise we were going to have to attach the legs together, and it's a little too crowded. It wasn't really what we were looking for here. So the next step of this, before we can continue on with stage 3, which is to start to build the body up, is we have to attach the legs where they belong. Okay, so now we've completed step 2 basically. We have constructed this whole piece. So the next step is to start working around the outside of the whole piece. You can see that I started taking some notes here, that the front legs are 21 stitches around on the outside of each leg, and the back legs are 23 stitches. That's important because we want things to work out relatively even. If they're a little crooked, it's fine, but like relatively even is the goal here. So making a few notes like this is very, very helpful. So the next stage is to start sort of building upwards in little little horizontal slices. So I'm probably going to do a couple of little drawings of just what I think little splits at certain points of the head are going to look like, just to help me stay on track. And then you will just see me stitching the whole thing. So that's what you're going to see now. At this point, it occurs to me that the way this pattern's working out, he's a little less Stegosaurus and a little more Legosaurus. Okay, so there we are. We are at the end of phase 3 at the moment. So he's turning out a bit of a different shape than I expected. I still think he's kind of cute. Oh, his little hump's a little bit crooked, and that's okay. So from here, what we do is we are going to start making some spines. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit as many as were in the original sketch. So we had 5 here listed before, but we have a lot less real estate to work with here along this back. So we're going to fit definitely 1 in at the top, possibly 2 down the tail, but then I think we're only going to fit 1 more in at the head here, so we're not going to be able to fit this front one in. Okay, so it's time to position those spines, and to do that I'm going to need to call in my supervisor. Alright, so now that we're all pinned on exactly where I want them, we're just going to have a quick look from all sides to make sure that they do look all lined up. So there we go. We still need to put in a little holding stitch in the eyes as well, just to indent them a little bit. But other than that, he is ready to take his final form. Okay, and there he is, all done. All of his little bits and pieces are sewn on. Now I like to give each one a little bit of a tug just to make sure they are nicely secure. Best thing about designs like this is you don't have to worry about the legs falling off because they have just been stitched straight into it. Though what we do in situations like this is we do still check just to make sure there are no holes where that flat piece met the legs initially. And we can just chuck a stitch in there if any do appear, but this is looking pretty solid. Just checking the little neck gap as well. Nope, we're looking pretty good there. Okay, so he didn't really end up looking very much like the concept sketch at all, but he did end up kind of lumpy and just with a lot of character of his own, I think. This little guy is way out the left field for me. I did have a lot of fun playing around with some of this sort of color and texture. I might play again with that in future. I'm not super pleased with like how it turned out on this little guy, but I mean, I still think he's really cute. He's my little Stegosaurus. All right, that's it for today's video. If you liked this, please take a moment to hit the like button. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button. I do put out new videos every Thursday, usually with a new design, and always packed filled with like tips and tricks on how you can design your own. Leave me a comment below if there's something specific you'd like to see me tackle in future videos. I'm sorry that this one's a little bit more low energy than normal. I should be back to my usual self from next week onwards. But that's it for today, and thanks very much for watching. Bye!